What is up, everybody? If you're watching this back on VOD, this is my immediate post-show reactions and review to AEW Dynamite and NXT via WWE, the Wednesday night war that we have going on. And we just hit week 3, so we're almost about a month into this war, and it's pretty close to even. I've been giving AEW the edge in the first 2 weeks. They've had some psychology inconsistencies, and I feel like the first 2 weeks the wrestling quality has been better on NXT, but I feel like AEW has told a better story overall, and I felt like NXT had some some bad booking decisions, and weren't telling a cohesive story throughout their shows like AEW have been doing. Now this week we saw improvements on both sides. I did have some criticisms from AEW as well, such as, you know, the faction on faction kind of stuff going on, questionable things, some questionable psychology stuff, but it seems like they didn't notice anything like that from this show. AEW started out with SCU versus the Best Friends, and we got the start of what might be either the start of or continuation of a rivalry between Lucha Bros and SCU. SCU attacked by Lucha Bros in their entrance. Christopher Daniels is attacked as he gets package pile drivered onto the entrance ramp, gets taken out on a stretcher. Scorpio Sky has to fill in against the Best Friends, and you know they had a thing on Being the Elite this week where Orange Cassidy told Chucky T and Trent Beretta, yeah, I'm not going to be there for the match. I think we know why, because for some reason, maybe this does play into a little bit of the psychology stuff I was talking about, but I mean, it's more of an evolution of the characters, so maybe, like, I don't know, we'll have to see where they go from here for Best Friends to see how I feel about it. But Orange Cassidy said he wasn't going to join them ringside, and we kind of know why, because they acted with Lucha Bros having put SCU on the back foot on their heels for this match. The Best Friends acted as almost like heels in this match, kind of playing to the crowd, trying to do like cutoffs, trying to do kind of heelish kind of things. But the match was still pretty entertaining, despite that little criticism. I think the reason why, and that's the reason why they didn't have Orange Cassidy out there, was because they knew Orange Cassidy would get a huge standing ovation if he did anything or was there, and I think they wanted SCU to really feel like underdog baby faces here. There's a lot of good action, and eventually SCU was able to pull out the victory, defeat the Best Friends. Best Friends are eliminated from the tournament, and SCU advances to the semifinals to take on the Dark Order. Meanwhile, over in NXT, we got first action from Tommaso Ciampa. Tommaso Ciampa came back. He faced Garza, and unfortunately, Garza came up kind of short. It was kind of a quick match. Ciampa took care of him in a reasonable amount of time. But then we got the Undisputed Era coming out, trying to challenge and almost try to jump Ciampa, but Ciampa saw it coming. He revealed that he had his crutch laying and waiting, sat down with a chair, challenged them to come fight them. The crowd's chanting "Daddy's home." Undisputed Era backs off, and if you noticed when they came down, that Roderick Strong had like a Velveteen Dream-esque lens sunglasses, and the reason for that we find out when we came back from commercial break. Undisputed Era attacked the Velveteen Dream, and this is what I was talking about with NXT, where I felt like they needed to improve, which was kind of more segment to segment. I mean, it's ideally more start to show end kind of storytelling, but it was more segment to segment here. And I think they might have done a better job at it than AEW Dynamite did this week, of telling a story that weaves through different segments. So we went from AEW getting involved with Ciampa and the NXT Championship, merging over to the North American Championship. And then we eventually saw that because of their actions against Dream, William Regal decides that the match of Keith Lee versus Dominic Dijakovic would be a #1 contendership match for the North American Championship. Thus, you know, segments are flowing into each other. I really appreciate it when the weekly wrestling television shows tell the story from segment to segment, and NXT did a better job than AEW on this in this one. The next segment for AEW was a Cody Rhodes promo. Really good video package. Just selling how badly Cody wants the AEW Championship, wants to defeat Jericho in order to prove to himself that he's worth it, that he made the right decision in leaving WWE, validating himself, validating his decision to start AEW and all that kind of stuff. So pretty good way to help build up for that full year main event. Meanwhile, and then after that, we got LAX versus a pair of enhancement talent. This is the first time we've seen some sort of like random enhancement talent showing up on AEW. It was interesting. I was kind of a little disappointed by that fact, because I kind of was, one of the things I was looking forward to AEW was that hopefully they wouldn't do that kind of thing. But, you know, at the same time, if you need to build up top stars and make them squash people to make them look threatening, you kind of, while not hurting other talent, you kind of have to do that sometimes, so I guess I understand. Bit of a nitpick, though. LAX took them on. They obviously took care of them in no time flat. Also, by the way, LAX are local boys. What up? Respect to them. Then we had Jericho on the Tron. Jericho flowed into this with the victory, talking about how dangerous LAX is and why they're in the inner circle, and about how, and then talks about, you know, how dominant inner circle is. The one thing that caught me, Jericho's promo was good, but the one thing that caught me was that he said that LAX are pit bulls among pit bulls. I believe he misspoke there and meant to use a different analogy. I commented in my live reactions that he probably meant to say something along the lines that they're pit bulls amongst beagles, unless he's saying that, like, they're the most dominant pit bulls in, like, a roster of pit bulls, but I think he meant to try and say that, like, they're a step above, and a bit of a not normally seen misstep and miscue by Jericho on the promo. Overall, it was solid, though. Meanwhile, as we go over to NXT, we had a solid match between Imperium and Oni Lorcan and Danny Burch. Solid wrestling, solid match. Really nothing really to entirely write home about. Just continued this kind of like just good way to get exposure for two good tag teams. And then we went into Io Shirai versus Caden Carter, who I had not seen before. And this was probably one of the better matches of the night, I got to admit. Caden Carter really impressed me. And of course, heel Io Shirai, it turns out to be best Io Shirai. She ended up winning the match against Caden Carter. And then Rhea Ripley came out after Io tried to cut a promo and mentioned Ripley by name. Ripley basically said something to the effect of, that is the last time you will mention my name, or the next time, you know, my name comes out of your mouth, I'm going to shut it, something to that effect. So it looks like we're going to get some sort of, possibly, Rhea Ripley versus Io Shirai for the #1 contendership. We also found out that we're going to get Bianca Belair versus Rhea Ripley, so, like, really kind of, like, muddied the contendership, because we'll find out later that a couple other ladies might be involved. As far as who's going to challenge Shayna Baszler for the NXT Women's Championship, because we've got, as you saw, Io and Rhea Ripley talking there. Bianca Belair has mentioned that she's going to be involved. We've got Tegan Knox, who returns later, who, like I said, I'm going to talk about later, and Dakota Kai, who are back. So, like, I'm wondering if this is going to, if like, as we get close to the next TakeOver, that this picture is going to become more clear, or if it'll just be some sort of multi-woman. We'll find out. Meanwhile, over on the AEW side, Riho and Britt Baker went one-on-one in a women's championship match. Solid match, pretty good. You know, nothing that I'm gonna say like really like stood out that I'm gonna write home about. Nice finish to protect Britt Baker. Riho slips out of a submission, gets a roll-up quick pin. We'll see how Britt Baker reacts next week. But again, decent match. I think I actually think Shirai versus Caden Carter was probably better, because I think they did some more impressive things, and also it's impressive because I hadn't seen Caden Carter before. But not a bad match, just nothing that really like lit a flame the crowd, I felt, or the show itself. Then we go to the next match in the tag tournament, which was Lucha Brothers versus Jurassic Express. This, potentially along with SCU and Best Friends, but I think this more so, probably a contender for me for match of the night. Lucha Bros and Jurassic Express killed it. the creative kind of stuff that they have been able to figure out what to do with Marco's stunt was genius. Some of the stuff that Phoenix and Pentagon Jr. were able to do to Marco's stunt, it looked like there was one, it was like a pump handle, like cradle driver, kind of, where like Strut just accordioned up, and it almost looked like he just became a pile of just flesh and bone that were just not connected to one another. It was gross. Awesome match. Lucha Brothers picked up the win. So they advanced to face Private Party on the other side of the semifinals. So we're now in a position where we're either going to get Private Party versus the Dark Order in the finals, and we can get Lucha Bros SCU as like a rivalry out of tournament match for Full Gear, or we'll have that rivalry be an extra driving drama piece to bring more attention to the tag championship match, and we'll get Lucha Brothers versus SCU for the title. That's what I'm thinking. Who knows? Maybe they could even go a third way, and one team makes it in, one doesn't, and the team that didn't make it in costs the other team the championships. In which case, I would imagine it would, I mean, even then, like, it doesn't make sense, because then you would have two heel teams going up against each other, so maybe that wouldn't be a way of something that would happen, unless you do Private Party maybe versus SCU, because face versus face I think works better than the face versus heel. Meanwhile, as this match is going on, another candidate for match of the night, Keith Lee versus Dominic Dijakovic. Those two big boys can lift some big boys. They lifted each other, did some really impressive maneuvers. Keith Lee being able to pick up Dijakovic and do some of the stuff that he was able to do. Power bombs galore. At one point, Dijakovic was able to actually walk Lee out from the turnbuckle on his shoulders, and Keith Lee ain't no Marco stunt. We'll say that much. He is far from that. He is the exact opposite of that. Very large, big, heavyweight wrestler who has a lot of great agility. These two went all out, and then the match ended up in a double disqualification, no contest, because Roddy Strong did the old heel tactic, which, you know, I kind of wish heels didn't, like, it was okay, but I kind of wish heels didn't do this anymore, because it happens so often, it's like a cliche. Like, you would think that heels who are champions would know that this never goes their way if they do this. Sure enough, Roddy Strong comes out, attacks them both with the belt, and is like, haha, no contest, I have no challenger. And William Regal comes out and he's like, dude, have you not seen this happen a million times in the history of pro wrestling? This has already happened. You're facing up both next week now. Good job. But again, that's another good part of, despite that kind of thing that I had a bit of an issue with, they did have, it was another case of segment to segment storytelling that NXT hadn't been doing since the start of the Wednesday Night War that they did now, that I really appreciated. Then we had Matt Riddle take on Bronson Reed in an entertaining match. I thought Matt Riddle was just going to crush Bronson Reed. Props to Matt Riddle, by the way. It looked like he was wearing Yankee gear, despite his logo almost looking like Tampa Bay Rays, but he was wearing pinstripes. I'm going to see Yankees. Sporting the Yanks in the ALCS. That's what I'm saying. Go Yanks. Anyway, Bronson Reed put up a pretty good fight against Matt Riddle here. This really helped build up Bronson Reed as a legitimate contender in NXT, legitimate competitor, potentially could have a North American Championship maybe 6 months down the road or so, or at least a match. And Riddle despite picking up the win, actually showed Reed respect, so another little nod and push to him. I like that. Building up other people, building up other wrestlers, making the roster more diverse, full of a bunch of different competitors who are more even with each other. Meanwhile, on AEW, we had Omega and Page versus Pac and Mox. That was probably the most anticipated match of the night. It certainly delivered. It's up there with a competitor for match of the night. Don't know if it'll get it when I finally make my decision at the end of the video. But it started off really slow, basic, generic, nothing too exciting. But as it went on, it what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of built up momentum, and I'm thinking the word amplified, but I know it's not amplified. Just built towards the crescendo at the end, which led to these amazing strike sequences by between Omega and Pac. A nasty lariat by Pac, which turned Omega inside out. Omega inadvertently kicked Pac on the flip. Eventually built to Mox and Omega about to go at it with barbed wire. And for a second, I thought, again, that AEW was going to, like, make me think, what are you doing? You're not thinking psychology-wise. Moxley hits Omega with the bat, and the ref kind of sees it, and I'm like, the ref should call for a DQ. But Pac immediately runs in, rips the bat out of Mox's hands. I was like, what are you doing? You're going to cost the match. Knock it off. The ref goes in, he's like, yo, one of you got to be in the ring, and you got to kind of knock that off, Mox. So they covered their asses that time. They almost did it three weeks in a row. And then Mox just turns on Pac with his double arm DDT, which was amazing. The crowd popped huge. Sets up Mox versus Pac next week. And finally, after a losing streak, this seems like forever because you can't count Omega versus Janela because that was technically unsanctioned. Omega and then Paige get their first wins in AEW in what feels like forever. And it's a tag match, so it doesn't count to their singles record, but it's still a victory. Overall, good match. I need to take a breath. Then we had on NXT, Tegan Knox versus Tainara Conti. She is the black belt. I believe it's in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. She's from Rio de Janeiro. Kind of enhancement talent here. Meant to help build up Tegan Knox in her return. Tegan looked good. She looked great. It's good to see her back, even though it's kind of sad to see her with two almost like Stone Cold Steve Austin-esque knee braces on. She wins the match, gets interviewed afterwards. Dakota Kai comes out to help, to like congratulate her. I think, oh, are they going to turn on each other? No, it's just a way to get them involved in the Shayna Baszler stuff. Shayna comes out, talks some crap to Tegan, and as I mentioned before, the NXT Women's Championship picture gets muddier and muddier, but I'm sure they'll clear it up as things go forward. And if anything, I actually like that because it just goes to show the strength right now of the NXT Women's Division. You've got Io, you've got Rhea. I was saying last week how Bianca Belair has really improved. You've got Tegan, you've got Dakota, you've got Baszler herself, and that's not to mention the fact that Candice LeRae had a championship match against Shayna 2 weeks ago. Like, that's a stacked NXT Women's Division. Like, it's incredible where they've come since, in just like about a month or two. The addition of Knox and Kai returning from injury and Ripley getting transported over to NXT proper for NXT UK has really been given that division a much needed shot in the arm. And now it's, I think, one of the absolute strengths of NXT. Then we had a Finn Balor promo. I didn't entirely catch what he said, but just building up to the fact that, hey, he's in NXT now. Then we had Boa versus Killian Dane, and basically Killian Dane just kind of killing Boa and making Killian Dane look strong. Meanwhile, Jericho versus Darby Allin, the main event started. That's another match of the night candidate, I gotta say. That was a really entertaining match. Again, kind of built a little bit. Darby Allin seemed a little like almost nervous, like he missed a lariat, the clothesline that was supposed to send Jericho off the top rope, and they recovered. But eventually, after like the first couple minutes, he kind of got into it, was comfortable, and did some amazing stuff while his hands were tied behind his back. A springboard crossbody, suicide dives, all with no protection in his arms. It was great. Jericho worked to his strength, did a good job of milking and playing the crowd. And then we got the Jake Hager interference. We thought we were going to see Darby Allin potentially break a wrist, an elbow, or a shoulder by going for the taped arms behind his back coffin drop, but Hager comes in and strikes him with a distraction, allows Jericho to sink in the walls of Jericho, his second of the night. Allin taps out, and Jericho retains. I liked it. Gets Jake Hager involved, keeps Allin looking good because he didn't lose clean, and it helps build up the inner circle, makes him look more of a threat, shows that Jericho can't just get it done on his own and kind of needs help, which is good in a heel champion. And then we had a great moment afterwards where the rest of Inner Circle came out with some bubbly. They popped some bubbly, sprayed it around. Jericho downed almost an entire bottle out his throat, spit it out, and we got a little bit of bubbly to finish off and AEW. Nice finish, nice image, and it didn't have any elite involvement. No faction on faction interactions or shenanigans at the end of the show, which we were mentioning Big Stupid in the chat mentioned last week, I can't remember if I mentioned in my review last week, that was starting to become a pattern with the first 2 weeks, and we didn't want to see it become a pattern. And luckily, they also realized that and just let the moment live and breathe, and then ended it. Very smart by AEW. I appreciate that. Not noticing that they could have developed a pattern of ending every single show in the same kind of way. Something that plagued WCW towards the end. Something that's been an issue on and off with WWE sometimes. So good on AEW. Meanwhile, we had the main event of Pete Dunne versus Damian Priest. Very good match. Very good psychology for the most part. I'll get to that at the end. Another match of the night candidate, I would say. And then Priest surprisingly goes over and defeats Pete Dunne via a smart low blow. They get tangled up into the corner by the ref, which I do want to say, props to AEW and NXT. Tonight, both main events were refereed by a female ref, so props to them on that. Ref gets tangled up in the corner with them, goes to duck under to get out of the way, and as she has her back turned trying to get through, low blow by Priest to Dunn, hits the don't call it a crossroads finisher, and gets the 1, 2, 3. Now, I will say that the finish had great psychology with the ref and the low blow. However, one thing that I'm going to criticize here is that Pete Dunne spent a significant portion of the match attacking and targeting Priest's left arm and left hand, and when he delivers his crossroads move, he hooks them with his left arm and hits him with it, yet Priest did not sell. Like, I'm not expecting him to, like, lay there, like, oh, like, didn't even, like, grasp or sell his left arm after hitting the move, nor did he sell it at all after the match, which kind of hurts, like, kind of makes Dunn's offense with his arm, which is part of his whole shtick and gimmick, look weak by extension. So that's a little bit of a criticism I have from that main event. And that ended NXT in surprising fashion. So if I have to give a moment of the night to anything, I would, I don't know. There was no real moment that specifically stood out to me. Maybe the bubbly coming out at the end and Hager helping out Jericho. I think that was likely, looking over my list of everything that happened, I think that was the moment of the night. If not, Riddle probably showing Bronson Reed respect. There was nothing crazy that, like, blew your mind, really, as far as, like, developments or moments-wise. I think that that qualified, like, moment of the night. So I guess I'll give it to the Inner Circle celebration and Jake Hager interference at the end of the AEW main event. As far as match of the night, I'm going to give, looking over everything, I'm going to give the bronze to, looking it all over. So I'm going to do top 5 here, because it's going to be hard to pick. I know what number 2 and 1 are. I believe I know what number 3 is. I think I'm going to say 5 is probably Pete Dunne and Damian Priest. 4 would go to SCU and Best Friends. 3, the bronze, I think would go to Io Shirai and Caden Carter. 2, I'm going to give to, well, actually, no. Sorry, 4, I'm going to give to Omega Page versus Pac Mox. SCU Best Friends bumped out of the top 5. 3 would be, again, Io and Caden Carter. Bronze, I will give to Keith Lee and Dominic Dijakovic. And I think I'm going to give match of the night to Lucha Brothers versus Jurassic Express. I think they did a lot of really cool, interesting, creative things. Lots of high action. And I think they just edged out Lee and Dijakovic. And as far as work rate goes, you know, it's interesting. Traditionally, the first 2 weeks, there are going to be 2 other things I'm going to give superlatives to. Best interwoven storyline, like best storytelling throughout the course of the show, I'm going to give to NXT. In the first 2 weeks, I gave that to AEW. However, work rate, the first 2 weeks, I gave it to NXT. I feel like the caliber of matches and the work rate in AEW as a whole this week I think was overall better. I think like I had Priest Dunn 5, but I think SCU and SCU versus Best Friends could be right there as well. So could Jericho versus Darby Allin. I feel like a lot of AEW matches are right there at the outskirts of the top 5, whereas the other NXT matches were below it, like reasonably below it. And so due to that, because there was no psychology hiccups, they didn't repeat themselves again, they had the better work rate, and the best moment, I think I'm going to give this week, again, the slight edge to AEW. This is the 3rd straight week I've given Dynamite the victory, but again, every single week, it's not like I believe that AEW is blowing NXT out of the water. I think NXT is still providing really good products, really good entertaining wrestling. Both shows are killing it right now. I just think that AEW just keeps edging them out, just barely. But we will see if that will happen again next week. We're gonna have, I believe we're getting Private Party versus Lucha Bros next week. We're gonna get Mox versus Pac next week. Those are gonna be 2 really hype matches. But we're also next week going to get that triple threat match for the North American Championship, and we're gonna get Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair. So NXT's got a chance next week to take his first victory in the Wednesday Night War. But so far, as of right now, based on my tally, by narrow margins, very slim margins each week, I've got AEW 3 to NXT 0 so far. That's going to do it. Those are my immediate reactions and review for NXT, WWE NXT and AEW Dynamite for the week of October 16th, 2019. If you guys have any differing opinions, you know, obviously I stream this stuff on Twitch. If anybody has any differing opinions while you're on Twitch, feel free to put them in the chat. I will read them as I do the review and the recap. If you're watching on YouTube, if you disagree or if you agree with me, let me know in the chat, in the comments. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you thought of the show. Let me know who you thought won. If you have any of your own personal picks for the superlatives I list, let me know there. Don't forget as well to like, share, subscribe. Come on over to Twitch and drop a follow there as well. That's going to do it for this week. I will see everybody next week. Let's see, 7 plus 6 is 23, so it'll be the October 23rd edition of the Wednesday Night War. Thanks everybody so much for watching. If you guys are here on Twitch, I am also going to leave you guys here. I want to say thank you to everybody who came by and got involved in the chat, specifically to Breezy and to Laserscope and to Big Stupid tonight. So that is going to do it. Breezy, you say you're going to chime in when you watch NXT tomorrow. Sounds good. We'll talk about it Friday, which is my next live stream. Gameplay stream Friday, by the way, if you are watching this on YouTube. That's going to do it for me, guys. Everybody have a good night. Take care. Peace, deuces. Catch you guys later. At the very least, hopefully next week. Thanks for coming.